is Gregory McMillan, August 1st, 1967. Well, my favorite book is also a movie, The Notebook. It just has so many sides to it that, I'm able to relate with when it comes to, the relationship aspect. Because it probes into the backstory of this couple that the wife wakes up every day and doesn't remember the fact that she's married to this gentleman, and he goes through the process of explaining to her different scenarios or synopsis of their time together in their relationship, and they ultimately end up passing away next to each other the same time. It was pretty much just like anybody else, where we grew up in the neighborhood where we all the kids played with each other, we hung out with each other, particularly during the summertime, where we grew up at a time where we weren't supposed to stay in the house. We had to be out of the house all day until, parents came home. I don't know if you would say that's a latchkey situation or not, but we really just enjoyed the not only our neighborhood, but friends from other parts of Haddonfield as well. We had this one family named the Ryan family, and we always knew when it was time for lunch and when it was time for dinner, because they had a cowbell that was on the side of their house that they would ring, and all of us also knew it was time to go home and eat. It started in 1910 with my great-grandfather, Pearlie Hart, who was a chauffeur for people on Lane of Acres. And my great-grandmother used to do laundry. My grandmother used to do people's laundry. My grandfather was a Teamster. And then my father, of course, who graduated in 1948 from Haddonfield, he worked for Hiram Walker, and again, we were a very close-knit, community. Mm-hmm. I have my brother that lives in New Mexico, my sister that lives in Arizona. A lot of my family members that grew up in Philadelphia have all moved to Florida. I'm the only one out of my parents' kids who stayed here on the East Coast and in Haddonfield after my father died in 2000, my mother came to live with us, and she passed away in 2011. So I'll be here at least for the next 4 years while my youngest goes through the Haddonfield High School. And then once she graduates, I'll probably move out west. Well, I lived here, bought my first house in '95, and then we moved out of Haddonfield in '99. Moved from here to Lawnside to Lindenwold to Woodbury. But then when my kids started coming home from school in middle school and the beginning of high school, without any homework books, and they were still getting A's, I thought there was something wrong with that picture, so my wife and I decided to move back here for the education. The former mayor, Jack Tarditi, who I started at the age of 8, stopping by his insurance office on Ellis Street, because there were a lot of things in our neighborhood that were different than the rest of town, like our playground, for instance, that we had at the end of our street on Douglas Avenue, wasn't as well kept as Mountwell or other playgrounds around town. So I would go to him and ask him questions like, why is this not this way, or why is this way in our part of town? And then it got to the point where I asked him so many questions, so much he said, Greg, I'm going to get you involved in things. So at an early age, he got me involved with the JCs in Haddonfield. He got me involved with volunteering, becoming a Boy Scout with Troop 65. And he kind of, to me, was like a second father figure, and I think, if I'm correct, the longest serving ever mayor in our town. My pastor, Reverend Dr. J.B. Dix, who lived directly across from me in the parsonage, was the pastor of Mount Olivet Baptist Church. As a matter of fact, I had to use his car to take my driver's test because the car we had didn't have a place for the driving test coordinator to put his foot on the brake, which is a requirement here in New Jersey. So he also was someone who was very influential in my life. Well, I tended to be different in the sense that when I was younger, instead of hanging out with my kids, my friends in the neighborhood a lot of time, I would go talk to all of our senior citizens on Douglas Avenue. There were the Brewers who were right next to me. It was two widows. They used to tell me about their husbands that were candy makers up in Connecticut. There was Miss Hilda who lived next to them, who I would cut her grass, and she had a little dog, Chihuahua, called Cookie, and always was barking at us when we'd walk by, but Miss Hilda was wonderful. We had Miss Henry, who lived across the street, who always gave the neighborhood kids candy, and so we called her the Candy Lady. Then there were the Woodsons. They were two brothers that lived down the street. One was Ernest Woodson, and then his brother lived down the end of the hill. And they were just people I would always resonate to and talk to and try and find out more about, how they lived and what it was like. As a matter of fact, the Woodsons were brothers that they both worked at Campbell's Soup in Camden when the factory was still producing soup there in the city. Well, a lot of the things that I learned, I also learned by volunteering. In the 90s, the early 90s, I was almost a part of as many groups as I possibly could be. Like I said, the JCs, I was vice president for. I was a part of the Breakfast Rotary Club in Haddonfield. I was a part of the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, which then took over the Mabel K House in Haddonfield and started that up, and I was a part of that committee. I was a part of the Haddonfield Democratic Club. Just so many different things because I really wanted to make a difference and actually had toyed with the idea of running for commissioner. But the more I got involved in politics, the less I found it suited my personality. I'm not one who kiss butt. So in politics, you've got to do something for people to get their support, and that wasn't me. Very much so. I ultimately had gotten married, and my wife and I talked about all the things I was involved in. And one of the things when you're involved in politics, you also must support the committee that you're a part of financially as well as personally. And so the requirements for that were a little too exorbitant for our pockets. So I found I could do more on the outside of politics, holding people accountable rather than being actually inside politics. So that helped me to be the father that I am. It helped me to be the husband that I was. It helped me to be the friend and neighbor. The friends that I had, I've had lifelong friends from growing up on Douglas Avenue, and still see them to this day, and just happy about that. Sure. Ongoing, example, I was at one time on the leadership committee for the Haddonfield Alumni Society. So because of that, I'm still involved with a committee now that is raising funds for scholarships through the Drama Club. I was in all 4 years of my high school experience in every fall play. I was in every musical, and I was in every winter one act when they still did them, and did intimate theater up on the stage. And because of that, I think that helped me to be the public speaker that I am today in ministry as a pastor of care at my church, but I'm also a chaplain for a hospice organization. So because of the experiences I had talking to people growing up, speaking with senior citizens on a regular basis, it helps me to do what I do on an everyday basis. Growing up here in the 70s, the police force at that time had a different mindset than they do now. And we were always, in our neighborhood, stopped on a regular basis by Haddonfield police whenever there was like a robbery or something. Automatically assumed it had to be somebody from our neighborhood. I remember one instance, my friend and I were walking home from West End Avenue, and we were waiting for a friend to meet us, and the police came and said, "Who are we? Give us your ID. What are you doing here?" That happened. I was working for the municipality in the late 80s, early 90s as a sidewalk inspector, and I remember getting pulled over by a Haddonfield police officer, and he was very indignant with me, and I showed him the fact that I worked for the township, but that didn't matter to him. So those are the types of experiences that I didn't enjoy growing up, but because of those experiences, it helped me again to be the kind-hearted person that I am today. One of the things that happened to me in drama club was I had tried out for the role of Pippin. I did get the role of leading player, but I was not considered for the role of Pippin, even in the 80s, because I was going to have to kiss a white girl in one scene. And the director didn't feel comfortable with that, and so I was not offered that role because I was an African American male kissing a white girl on stage, which he thought would cause a whole bunch of problems. I didn't think I did let it affect me, but honestly, growing up and becoming an adult here in town, I realized that those instances really made me feel negatively impacted, because when other people would say you're never good enough, or you won't make it here, or you can't do this, I even remember my guidance counselor at the time telling me, "Oh, don't apply to those colleges, you probably won't get in." So because of that, I was determined to do better. I was determined to prove myself all the time. I was determined that I had to do more and more, until ultimately I found out who I was as a person, as an adult, and became satisfied with who I am. And my self-esteem changed, my mindset changed, and now, you know what? I'm happy with me and thankful for my family that I have and the love that we share, and everything I've gone through, I share with them so that they can have a better life. My dad worked 2 jobs so that we could have a roof over our head. My mom didn't start working until I think I was in high school or maybe later. And because of that, my mom was the one who always instilled in us children that she loved us no matter what anybody else said. She cared for us, and she was someone who wanted us to know about our heritage. As a kid, I didn't understand why she always wanted us to go vacation down south. As an adult, I understand now, and the more I realize, the less of our history as African Americans isn't still to this day being taught effectively or efficiently enough. We hear about Martin Luther King, we hear about Malcolm X, but we don't hear about a lot of the others that were before them or who have come after them, and that has a lot to do with who I am as a parent, but who I am as a man and who I am as a black man in society. Even to this day, I don't particularly like it when I hear sirens of a police car. It just sends chills through my body. Not that I have ever done something wrong, or it's just, you get this vision in your head of the worst case scenario, But my mother and my father were very influential in me becoming who I am, and me learning as an adult to be happy and satisfied where I am right now, because all we have is right now. Tomorrow's not promised to us. In all honesty, I didn't realize that we were as poor as we were growing up. And I didn't know that my parents wouldn't have money to help me go to college. And we didn't have that conversation until probably 6 months before I graduated. So it just so happened I had gone on a trip called American Music Abroad with our then band director and trip coordinator, Mr. Hackenberg. And he had a friend who was in the music department at Millersville University. And I ended up getting an interview with her to be a part of their music program, got accepted to Millersville, and decided to go there and met some of my lifelong friends I have now. I ultimately wanted to do something where I could serve people, and I didn't know if there were really jobs out there. Again, in my being naive, even as a graduate of Haddonfield Memorial High School, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, but I just knew I wanted to help people. I did end up working for the county in the health department, and enjoyed that immensely. From there, I became a director of a nonprofit in Delaware. And then from there, I ultimately moved into being a COO and executive director of a nonprofit in Philadelphia. And then through that process, at the same time in 1995, I became a pastor of a church in Camden where I served for 17 years. And that translated into me becoming senior pastor for a church of American Baptist Churches USA in Trenton. And now I'm still serving at that same church, but we merged with a more younger and vibrant church right at the beginning of COVID. And we've grown, we're thriving, and I love it. Yeah, the least satisfying work, kind of right out of college, was selling knives door to door. Cutco, as a matter of fact. Everybody knows who Cutco is because, they figure that you're going to get $10 an hour. It doesn't quite work that way. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. That was the worst experience. Having my children, of course, I didn't physically have them, but my children are the greatest gift to me. I love being their father. I can't imagine life without them. And the experiences of being a parent and co-parenting with their mother. I think being a homeowner here in town was a great experience. Even though my parents owned their home, we lived on Douglas Avenue. My great-grandfather built a house on Douglas Avenue, and I was the first one in our family to move off of Douglas Avenue and buy a home here in town, and that was a really proud moment. And then accepting my role in ministry has offered me the opportunity to touch lives for the better. See a community that was infested with drug dealers changed so that people could come out of their homes in Camden and live again, to starting a nonprofit through the ministry that would help adjudicated youth was something that I'm very happy and proud to have been a part of. And I think those are just some of the key moments in my life. I just want to say I'm happy to be a part of this project. It's something actually that was a part of my heart a long time ago, and I wasn't sure on how to actually start something like this, but fortunately we have a leader who is helping us and guiding us and pulling the collaborative partners together and making this such a success. I really can't imagine Haddonfield without realizing that there was a thriving African American community at one time. And I'm glad that we're making history and reminding people that we did exist. We have made strides to be inclusive, whether you're African American, whether you're Hispanic, whether you're Asian, whether you're gay, whether you're straight. Everybody has the opportunity now to participate in the entire process of being a global student here in this community. And I'm just really happy to see and to have lived through that.
Always be proud of what you've overcome, and always be proud of all the battles you've won, and always be proud of all of your darkest days, the tears you held back when you walked away. And always be proud of your mom and your dad, and whatever affair that they once had. Always be proud of your very first kiss, and always be proud of every friend that you miss. Oh,